All right, we are jumping right in here for our week ahead card pulls for our collective messages. It's our last week of July, a bit of a hybrid week as we welcome in August at the end of the week. So we're doing this here from our July altar for one last dip into the Astral Mermaid Tarot, as well as the Whispers of the Ocean Oracle that we've been enjoying. And we're going to kick things off with the Find Your Own Way Oracle to just kind of get us a little affirmation message for tuning in here for this last week of July and the beginning of August and the Lion's Gate portal. That we are in that gateway now, and I'm going to be talking more about that, especially as we tune in for August. And yes, Grow in the Flow's 5-year anniversary, as well as my birthday month, which is on 8/8. So lots of auspicious energies to celebrate here. And I will be forthcoming with some more announcements about the bonuses that are available with all my usual offerings this month, which include the Empowerment Pack for August and the bundle. So there's going to be some great deals there. Also a drawing that you'll be entered into with all bookings and more. So we will get into that on the other side. But let's see what's coming up here from Find Your Own Way Oracle. There we go. Yes, I am here for it. And the yellow butterfly has been a very special symbol for one of my friends, Signs from Spirit, that we've been keeping our eyes peeled. So you know who you are. There you go. Another beautiful sign coming in from our loved ones on the other side. Authenticity is contagious. And yeah, authenticity is the Leo buzzword, right? This is about being you. I am standing in my power, courageous, bold, shining, unapologetically. So I am here for this. I love it. I am going to bring in a little Bob Marley again. I know I just used it when I was away. I have a couple of bottles stashed away of this very special. It was a limited edition that's currently not available from Angelic Celestial Colors. Hopefully it will come back because it's beautiful. It's the joy energy and really about stepping into this beautiful space of positivity and one love energy, which I'm feeling through the birds, the butterflies, the bees, all the things in nature speaking to us symbolically always. So we'll tune in to that message from the Find Your Way Oracle. Let's see what 5 Astral Mermaid Tarot cards are coming up for us for this final week of July, first couple of days of August as we tune in here. And of course, next time we meet, we will see an all-new August altar space with new intuitively selected decks and altar elements. So I am tuning in for that and just allowing myself to be open for inspiration to what wants to come forward for that in the coming month. Let's see what's coming up here and now on Monday for our week ahead. 5 of Air, 5 of Swords. Victory at what cost? Is the juice worth the squeeze? We've had so much. The 5 frequency is here. It's been here. We're in transition. I chatted on that a little bit when I popped in while I was away, as well as in the new moon in Leo reading was all about the 5s. We had so many 5s and such a theme of being in the in-between. And so this is definitely continuing to stir that up and poke and prod at needing to make some personal choice in terms of what involvement I'm going to have in that fray. So that's what the 5 is bringing in for us, is in the fray. And this notion of what is my role? And as for me, where shall I be? And where am I putting my focus? So we'll have an opportunity to dive into that to kick off today's energy that moves into this week. And then Tuesday, representing our potential block or challenge this week. What do we need to know there? Potential block or challenge. Ooh, 21, the cosmos. This is the world. It is the culmination. This is the card that came up when I popped on, actually, a couple polos back here on the Empowerment Sharecast. I came in with a little preview from my hotel room, and we pulled 3 spontaneous cards, but the central message was you in the center of your universe and coming full circle through endings and new beginnings. And this is a gorgeous depiction that I have not seen yet, which is amazing. As much as we've been working with this deck this month, this is the first time we've seen the cosmos. So we shall tune in for that, for a potential block or challenge when it comes to reconciling perhaps endings and new beginnings and being able to put our most authentic self at the center of that. So we will feel into that. Like I said, I'm heading out for Iron Infusion number 4, Mambo number 5, Iron Infusion number 4 today. So while I'm juicing, I'm going to be thinking about these messages that are coming forward and what's necessary for us to focus on this week, and maybe what's not, what we can take the best and leave the rest. Wednesday's midweek blessing, the 2 of air, choice point, decisions in our thoughts, our beliefs, our understandings. The air element, the swords, are bringing forward new clarity of mind, new clarity in our communications. And like I said, we're going to talk about the energetic weather, but if my math is correct, I think this is the day that Chiron is stationing retrograde, which is interesting, but we will touch on all of that in the cosmic weather. I'm like, what day is it? It's the 28th. So yeah, I think it's the 30th, but I don't know. What is time anymore? So the 2 of air as a blessing at that crossroads choice point. Thursday is how are we growing? And the last week of a month, I like to say, how have we grown? How have we been growing as we've moved through this month of July, which brought us Cancer season, numerous retrogrades on parade, the 4th one coming in here this week as mentioned with Chiron, and Leo season now here with the fire. And how have we been growing, expanding, learning, healing as a collective, as a humanity? What's coming forward for us through these messages? Thursday, last day of July, as a matter of fact. Perfect, baby. It's the Leo card, and it's 8 because on the other side is the 8th month. We finish out July here on this day, Thursday, and it's the energy of strength, of taming the beast within, of boldly stepping into our courageous, authentic self, and really coming into balance. And all of these cards will speak to that in terms of when to wield from perhaps a gentler place as opposed to a more fierce space, as these 2 are demonstrating for us. So we'll tune in. That's 2 major arcana cards so far. 2 major arcana cards of our week. And then Friday, first day of August. I hope. I don't know, like I said. Like, where am I? What day is it? Yes, that's my understanding. August 1st is Friday. What's coming in for the first card of August? Friday, wrapping up the week and beginning to set the tone for the month ahead. Let's see. The Hanged One, the Hanged Man, yet another major arcana card. So significant energy, and interesting that we have 3 major arcana cards, 2, 1, 8, and 1, 2. So we have again the frequency of the number 3, 21, and 12. Again, a couple of days ago, a couple polos back, I pulled 3 cards, which did speak to the frequency of 3, with the 3 of Cups and the World, both bringing in that number for co-creation, collaboration, connection. So here we have a hang up, a hold up. In some way, we're in a pause state, seeing things from perhaps a different perspective, which helps us to glean new awarenesses. So I'm feeling a connection between this energy of the retrograde, of Chiron retrograde, stop, collaborate, and listen, right? Slow it down, take it back a notch, but it's bringing in potential illumination and new understandings in our thoughts, our words, and how we use those things to co-create. So yes, definitely getting some big messages. Much to ponder there from my infusion chair. And now we have our final card pull from Whispers of the Ocean, another beautiful deck. I will probably be bringing in a sister deck of this one, maybe Whispers of Aloha. I'm not sure, but we're going to be continuing the summer feels over here for August. So we will have another deck from this beautiful Angela Hartfield, who has passed on from this plane, but her beautiful work remains and is so evident in these gorgeous cards. So let's see what the final Whispers of the Ocean card will be. One last card from our July altar space for our collective energies coming in. Ah, yes. 3, shared inspiration. Throw yourself into a new project. Be willing to let go of time constraints and rules, and really be aware of whatever fulfills your heart. So do it for the fun of it. I could have said another F word there. Do it for the fun of it, you know? So have fun with dipping into shared inspiration. So we're definitely getting this 3, co-laboring, co-creating for fun and through it all, which isn't always fun, right? But this is where Bob Marley energy was coming in to say, don't worry about a thing, because every little thing is going to be all right. And it's the 3 birds. So yeah, 333 coming across. So I'm feeling that. And with that, I must go. And it is 11:03 on the clock. So I got to skedaddle here, but thank you so much. We will resume this over on the Empowerment Sharecast. We're going to tune into all of these cards. I'll share a little bit more about what's coming up with the Empowerment Pack and options for the new month. And I look forward to catching up with you then. Much love, many blessings. We'll talk soon. All right, let's kick things off with some astrological weather as we're tuning in for a few aspects this week. It was quite busy in the preceding days, and I'm sure as we are coming into a new week, you may be riding out those residual waves of a lot of the things that had transpired in the cosmic skies since we last met here. Now this week, as we close out July and kick off August, we have the headline of Chiron in retrograde happening on July 30th. So as we've moved through this month, we had 3 planets station retrograde, and now the asteroid Chiron is joining what I've been calling the retrograde parade, because there's been a lot of this, you know, pausing and going back over through the lens of whichever planet and now Chiron, the wounded healer, that is in retrograde. So with Chiron entering retrograde in the sign of Aries, we have this representation of the wounds that we inherit in this lifetime and before we come into this body. So with Chiron in retrograde, we're invited to pause our healing journey and just bring total acceptance to where we stand as we are. And Chiron in Aries is a symbol for allowing our wounds to turn us into warriors, but not the hardened and evasive warriors, rather warriors of wisdom and deep knowing. Chiron retrograde can sometimes bring old wounds to the surface for us to look at, and it can stir past life memories that may be important for us to explore. So while delving into our past or even past lives may be insightful, the fiery Aries energy reminds us that the only way through is forward. So this is one that I really connect with. I've shared that here many times, and also in some of my work that I've done, a few Chiron retrograde videos that are out there and stand as timeless pieces with messages that you can tap into at any time. So as we move into this retrograde, I will reshare those links from my YouTube channel where you can go back and check out where we've talked about Chiron and done a deep dive into those aspects and how we can work with this. And it's something that, you know, like I say, as I've shared, is something that really speaks to me. I love the symbolism of turning our wounds into portals of power, to understanding that everything that we have moved through in our lives has happened for us, not to us, and that we are able to utilize whatever we have gleaned, what we can extract from those things to learn, grow, heal, and evolve as a soul. So that is definitely one that we will continue to talk about as we move through the retrograde. And also one of my other favorite seasonal offerings is the Chiron in retrograde spread. So I've just added that to my bookings. And it will be a part of any and all services that are booked with me from now forward. So as we're kicking off August, I'm recording this on July 28th, but anything that's booked from now through the month of August will be an entry into my birthday anniversary giveaway. So more information to come on that, but just know there is a special spread that we can tune into for Chiron retrograde and how you can work through those wounds and bring in some insight, wisdom, and guidance. So more to come there. And then also on July 30th, we have Venus in Cancer. Now, Venus is moving into heart-centered Cancer, which is turning our attention toward the softer things in life. And this is a good time to redecorate our space, to work on feeling more centered and aligned in our home environments. It's also a positive time to surround yourself with people that you love and can lift you higher. So make it a point to reach out to such people and let them know how you feel. So some heart expansion energy coming in here this week. That's both of those were on July 30th, which is bringing us to the midweek point. So now, final day of July, July 31st, we have the Sun conjunct Mercury retrograde, also known as a Mercury cazimi. The Sun and Mercury retrograde align, which is making it a power day for our Mercury retrograde cycle. So remember, Mercury is the latest planet that joined the retrograde parade this month. It retrograded in the sign of Leo. The Sun is also in Leo. So it's at this time, July 31st, Thursday, how are we growing? How have we grown this month? How are we growing into the coming months? It's at this time that we may start seeing what messages Mercury has been trying to communicate to us. As it's retrograde, issues from the past may also come back up, come around again to be resolved. I think it's interesting that we had that Two of Swords come in here for Wednesday as our midweek blessing. And we have this very powerful day in the Mercury retrograde cycle happening just on the other side of it Thursday, because as I mentioned in the card pulls, the Two Swords, a choice point in thoughts, beliefs, ideas, perspectives, our communication. So these are all ways that we can really bring in a blessing of awareness and aha moments and perhaps greater truths coming in as well with this energy. So that one, quite noteworthy. And then finally, I'm going to share the first aspect for August, Friday, August 1st. We have Venus square Saturn and Neptune. So now Saturn and Neptune have been hovering close together in Aries, and they're getting ready for their big merger that will be happening in early 2026. But as we open to the month of August, Venus will be in action with these two power planets. And by adding her influence here into the mix, we can expect that relationship issues could be at the forefront of our minds, as well as matters of the heart. Sounds like the two aspects we just talked about, right? Venus in Cancer and the Sun conjunct Mercury retrograde, both were speaking to relationships, home, and gathering around, and then also this energy of communication and what's coming around for us to resolve. So now we step into this aspect, kicking off the month of August, and it's putting that focus on those relationship issues and perhaps, you know, feeling torn about how we feel, or perhaps our emotions could feel all over the place in this energy. Saturn will ask us to ground ourselves in our relationships and set clear boundaries. Neptune will ask us to open our hearts and practice unconditional love. Wow, these cards are really speaking to those two options, those two doors. We'll be zooming in here in a moment when we pull up the altar space again, but as photographed here, we had that midweek card of the Two of Swords, the Two of Air, but it's showing to us as two portals, two openings, two doorways, a choice point, and also a blending. So we'll feel into that and see how, again, these cards, the stars, are all indicating for how we can step into having an empowered week, finishing July strong and stepping into August empowered. So let's get to it. Let's pull up our first card to take a look at for our collective energies this week. All right, let's start our card messages with this Find Your Own Way Oracle message. I believe this is the very first card in the pack. It is Authenticity is Contagious. So this is speaking to your authenticity and vulnerability, inviting others to be authentic and vulnerable too. It's contagious, right? So it says, when we open up to each other, unity and peace emerge. Although not everyone will resonate with you, being true to yourself makes space for connections with those who do. And these exchanges are rich with wisdom, ideas, and comfort. Living authentically is a generous act that opens space for others to do the same. And by honoring your own path, you align with nature's intent for your growth. To be authentic is to follow your unique path, contributing to the broader tapestry of life. And with practice, staying true to yourself fosters self-awareness, empowerment, and joy in your daily life. And the affirmation says, may I find true, deep joy from authenticity rather than the security of fitting in. So, just so happens we brought in intuitively the joy energy spray through the lens of Bob Marley here, as photographed with this card, that is all about stepping into a greater sense of I am power. We're connecting in with the solar plexus. We're really feeling into this sense of bold, courageous, unapologetic authenticity. And, you know, we have the Strength card on the altar this week as well. And I'm really feeling into these two butterflies coming together, the yellow and the blue, but they're making what appears to be one. So there is this sense of one, as the one love energy is here as well, that as each of us bring our own unique aspects to the table, and we stand proudly in our authentic sense of self, that we create space and comfortability. And let's say we normalize that notion for others as well. And ultimately, you know, the only way you can be is to be me, you know, who you are, your most authentic self, because it always will come to the surface. That sense of security, of course, of fitting in is a false sense if we're not in our integrity and our authenticity. So this is so important and such a theme right now. Since I recorded our card pulls this morning, and as I mentioned, I had some appointments that I attended to this morning, I had another run-in online with AI and questioning the authenticity of the information that was coming forward. And that, you know, once again is calling into question. And so this is where I see the cards, the messages that we're bringing here collectively with our intentions and what is showing up in reality in our lives is speaking. So we have this sense of, is this true? And using your own critical thinking and your own discernment and standing in your own sense of authenticity and, yes, vulnerability. And in doing so, it's contagious. Pass it on, right? Spread that instead of the false information quotes that we see out there. So I digress. Perhaps that will come up further into these cards. But for now, we're going to get started with our 5-card tarot spread for the week ahead, see what's coming forward for us collectively, and take it from there. All right, we are kicking off our tarot messages for the week with the 5 of Air, the 5 of Swords, coming in to set the tone here for the week of what do we need to know as we're finishing out July and stepping into August. And as we've come to know around these parts on the Empowerment Sharecast, and when it comes to all things empowered tarot and how we bring our collective energy together and tune in with the intention of each day of the week having a meaning with these cards, and how that may come up for all can vary widely, right? Where we're always invited to take what resonates, leave the rest. That's how it works with a collective reading. And we come in here and have an opportunity to see how this may apply for you. But if something doesn't resonate, you can leave it there for the next person. There's always someone there to pick it up. But I do love to hear from you on the wild ways these things come up. And I've already had so many, knowing what these cards were when I stepped out this morning, started experiencing, right? Sure enough. And so as we've come to know here, we find a theme. We infuse this space with the one love energy, with this yellow solar plexus I am, and we've gotten all these cards about authenticity and strength and the Leo energy and this boldness, and the numbers are speaking. And here we have now with this 5 of Air, as I look to the Astral Mermaid for some insight into this message, it says, no one likes a bully. You might think you are the big tough mer being, but wait until someone bigger comes along. It would have been better to be mindful and thought twice before taking the actions that you did. Inflicting pain for your own self-confidence bucket is a dirty way to be. Balance and justice will always be restored one way or another. So now that's kind of giving us the backstory here in the way that this can be you or someone in your orbit or an energy that's around you, or again, in the collective on the world stage. So the message is saying, we are all one. Yes, as we've brought in here, as we kicked off these messages with one love, we are all one. So rather than seeking to be right all the time, a mindset of oneness and compassion is what will propel you forward. It is time to question what you are getting out of this mindset, this me against you mentality. You may be projecting your own thought process about yourself onto others. And if so, how can you dig deep into your own self to repair this thought process? When seeking to be right, lay down your sword and listen. Use your energy to embrace the other person. Seek oneness in all that you do and say, love is the answer to everything. Wow, I wasn't even expecting that message to be so on point with the energies that we brought in here from the onset. And yet it's so perfect in a 5 of Air, a 5 of Swords. As I said in the card pulls, I like to say victory. I'm right, but at what cost, right? Is the juice worth the squeeze to step out and be able to say, I was right, I said it, I knew it. And, you know, that's just one way that it can show up. Now, it's interesting that we have 2 air element cards on the altar this week, 2 swords, and then 3 major arcana. So the swords are speaking to our thoughts, our ideas, our beliefs, the way we communicate and express ourselves. So something is off. When we have a 5, we know that things are in transition. They're in a state of change, and there's chaos, and it can be tumultuous. It can be choppy, you know, and we can see here in this version that we have that shark coming in, and there's definitely this argumentative energy of, you know, someone in someone else's face and the other person shrinking up in a sense of separateness. which is an illusion. And that's what's being brought up to the surface here, is to acknowledge that once we understand the universal truth of oneness, then everything that happens underneath that, starts to fall away if it doesn't all add up to that place of oneness. If it's about me being right and you wrong and somebody being the winner and the other one's the loser, and it's this way or that way, that we begin to fracture and find ourselves in that state. So I think it's interesting that, at a time where authenticity is coming onto the scene to be contagious, spread the word, right? Spread it out there. That what we see reflected back to us in the collective and on the world stage that doesn't match up to that universal truth is, it's amplified. It's in your face in a way that you can't not see that one of these things is not like the other, right? It doesn't add up. So it's fracturing, it's falling away, but perhaps doing so in a way that's very big, and loud. And, this is where even our, the messages I was just talking about with anything that's not true, that's false, falls away, can't stand. So we have this asking. And if you find yourself, that opening was saying like, you did this and you're the one that's acting this way. And we may find ourselves on defense to say, not me, that I don't do that. I don't, the story was saying in the beginning that, you're a bully, thinking that you're the big tough mer being, and feeling like that's not me. In what ways does this energy come through me? Right? And where do I detect that energy moving through me in any kind of way that I can do my part to shift that and into a state of greater and greater authenticity when I speak my truth? And the other thing I was getting in this card is that notion of truly listening, right? That was saying, put down your sword and listen to the other party, the other side, the other aspects, because oftentimes, perhaps human nature or just a habit of, learnedness is we're already thinking about our reply, right? If someone is speaking to us or communicating something to us that we instantly are like, nope, don't agree with that. That's not, whatever it is, we may automatically be thinking about our response. So we're not listening. We're refuting. We're thinking about our rebuttal. So opportunities for us to be mindful with these swords this week and to really utilize this Mercury retrograde energy to really contemplate before we speak, before we communicate. And also when we receive information, I can't stress this enough because, like I said, in between my pulling the cards and coming in here with the messages, I saw some fake news, and it was a report of, say, a prominent passing, a death of someone that wasn't true. And I got confused myself, in the moment of seeing it. And I perpetuated it. I told somebody about it only to find out that it wasn't true. And then I found myself getting angry. Like I felt frustration and anger at the notion of the lies and the deceit that's so blatantly out there, So a little bit of soapbox here to say that, but that's my real life example of how I instantly knew my 5 of air was coming in this week. That I feel like, discernment, authenticity, and the pause are back on the scene as we finish the week with the Hanged One. Take a beat, take a breath, and really run that through your internal truth detector, whatever is coming up. But, and also pause and listen and contemplate before we respond. All right. So let's take a look now at Tuesday's energy for our potential block or challenge. All right, Tuesday, bringing in our potential block or challenge this week. And I think it's just going to be one of those weeks, guys, where these cards are so spot on. They're just taking the words right out of my mouth. It's like I just said something and then it's like, boom, here. One love, boom, truth. So let's take a look at this cosmos. So this is the Major Arcana card 21, the final card on the Fool's Journey There are 22 from 0 to 21 cards that are a part of the tarot that represent as overarching energies, archetypes of the human journey, what we call the fool's journey in tarot, because card 0 is the fool. All of us come here to live this lifetime, a soul to have experience through relationship, through learning, growing, healing, and expanding. And so we're in it, we're doing it, right? And in that process, in that wheel, of moving through those archetypes, we come to completion with the 21. We come to the end on one hand, but then on the other side of that ending is always a new beginning. And this is something I talked about when this card came up just a couple days ago in my pop-on from the road when I was at the hotel and I was sharing the baseball and the team analogy. And if you didn't see that, it's a couple back. And even after I shared that, I was thinking about it and I was like, that was really remarkable, that we got the World and then we got the Three of Cups and then we got the Magician. And, everything I said about that, of course, stands and I think, kind of makes way for what's coming in here now. So as I say, taking the words out of my mouth, the cosmos opens up by saying, the more you think you know, the less you actually know. Life is a never-ending loop of cycles and learning opportunities. The deeper your dive into the unknown, the more surprises await you that bring you deeper and deeper into the web of this game called life. So it's saying in a reversed position, in a position of challenge, let's see, how can something like coming full circle in the world and you're at the center of it and all that beautiful energy be challenging? Where's the block? It's saying, tie up all those loose ends. Do not start or begin anything new. Wrap up all that is needed so that you can move on and close up this cycle. The story must end somewhere. And you have the choice right now, coming right up. And don't forget, last week's card was the Lovers, the card of choice, Major Arcana card 6. So just last week, we got the card of choice in this position. So you have the choice right now to finish it. And if you're avoiding the steps to create closure, this dense energy will only get stronger and stronger until you do. If you're holding on to the past with anger and sadness, then it's time to find a way to heal this so you can finally move on. If you do not address this test will come up in your next cycle as well. So you might as well work on it now while it is fresh. Start the next cycle with a clean slate. Your life is how you make it. Your life is your responsibility. Now, this deck, beautiful messages. And since we have 3 Major Arcana cards this week, they all come with a neutrality prompt. So stepping from extremes, from one extreme to the other, let's bring it into neutrality and see what's coming up here. It says, knowledge and wisdom comes from the ability to desire to see things from all perspectives. To learn a final lesson shows that you had the ability to do this, to come to terms with everything in front of you. And for that, you were given the gift of climbing to the next chapter of your life. And with that comes another cycle. If there's something within this cycle that is now coming to a close that has you feeling some sort of guilt or shame or something that you just cannot get your head around, I want you to stop and get out some paper and pen. Write these things down. See if you can connect the dots from this cycle to past cycles. Life cycles are 9 years in length. What are common situations that have come up for you? How did you react the last time compared to this time? I bet you handled it a lot better this time than you did in the last 9-year cycle. Through each lesson, you learn more and more about yourself, and you're able to see things in a much more clear way. There is no reason to feel guilt or shame with regards to anything that happened because you evolved from it. Celebrate that you got through it, and you are human, that you won at this game called life, and for that, you now have a much greater view because of it. Wow, it's just so on point with everything, the symbolism that we've been tapping into, all of it. And, I had shared the other week too, as we're winding down the July Empowerment Sharecast, but I had shared, again, Nautilus shell medicine was something that had come up again with this coming around again. And anytime we're in these periods of retrograde is a beautiful opportunity for us to, as I said earlier, stop, collaborate, and listen. These cards are literally saying those words. The Hanged One is stopping us in our tracks. There's a hang up, a hold up, and the energy of collaboration has been coming in, and the listen, as we just talked about with the 5 of air. So there's this sense of, what do I have an opportunity to see afresh through new lenses, through all perspectives? That is not the way of the 5 of air, right? It's my way or the highway. It's the way I see it, and that's all there is to it, right? As long as I'm right, as long as I emerge, on the right side. And it's that type of mentality, even when it's well-intentioned, even when the perspective that you hold feels to be the righteous one. It feels to be the one that is about one love and about, humanity and caring and compassion and peace and love. And yet there are some things that we may be shutting out or making sweeping generalizations about because we either don't understand it, we don't like it, etc. So we're all still here on the Earth School figuring this out together. And the way that we've chosen to do that here, right? I mean, just look how powerful. The way that we chose to come here to do that is through relation, right? And is through contrast. So we're having all of the experiences, the multidimensionality of it, meaning that everyone has come to play a role, and there's a role for all. And so in this, energy of the 5, in this, is the juice worth the squeeze, is where we have an opportunity to stand in our authentic knowing so that we can create that ripple effect, that it is contagious. So I think, a lot of interconnectivity through these cards. This is definitely one that's been taking the center stage in the world. And everything that I had said about it the other day in that card pull I did, and now it's showing up here, it is a challenge, right? And it's something that we can't pass go. As it was speaking about in the reversed message, we cannot move on upwards, ascension, without reconciling these last bits, these pieces that need to be released, integrated, shed, what have you. How it's coming forward for us is in what's playing out in our lives, in our microcosms, and in the macrocosm. So, that leaves us exactly here at this choice point where it's coming in as a blessing. So let's take a look now at that, the crossroads coming in with Wednesday's energy. Okay, Wednesday is bringing in our midweek blessing. And as I talked in the astrological weather, this feels really on point with some of those aspects because it's that 2 of air, this choice point. This way or that way, right? Which way do we go? And the air element, the swords, bring in again our thoughts, our beliefs, our ideas, our perspectives, and how we communicate and express them. So Wednesday comes in with this message, 2 portals, 2 different aspects of reality. Which one will you choose? What is ethically right and wrong? Which path will you take towards your highest mission and soul purpose? You are facing a hard decision. Seek clarity and weigh all options. Sorry, it was escaping me here. Seek clarity and weigh all options with each decision. There is something that you are missing that will help to make your choice that much easier. What is your intuition telling you? So yeah, there's definitely, we benefit from the pause. So the pause is here in the retrograde energies, right? And like I said, this is the week where on the 30th then, which is this day, right? I said Chiron stations retrograde on the 30th, that we have these portals the scars, the wounds, but the thing that happened, what he said, what she said, what they did, what happened to me, all those old stories have served. They have had their place. They have created the momentum that they were meant to create to bring up for us awarenesses and releasing and new layers that are arising that we now have an opportunity to transform into portals of power. So this really feels very connected in with the Chiron retrograde energy and this pause point to really think through these things and to contemplate. We don't have to rush in and make rash decisions. Again, getting ahead of ourselves, already thinking about our response, already deciding something before we've been presented with all of the information. Not questioning things that don't look or feel right or sound right, but, just kind of going along with the status quo, all those kinds of things. And I feel like, that's just one point, one perspective that is coming up for me. So then I tap in intuitively. And of course, my intuitive hits and what's coming forward is coming through my lens, the lens of my experience. And I happen to be seeing right now, out there, especially in the, social media world, so much blatant, in my view, the way I see it, the way I perceive it, is how can someone not see that that is fake, that that's not real? I can see all of the inconsistencies in this picture that's being presented to me or this story that's being told. And yet there are hundreds and thousands of people liking it and commenting on it and perpetuating it on face value on the surface level. And, I could feel a whole host of emotions about that, including like just frustration and disillusionment and all the things, but not to throw the baby out with the bathwater to say, like I said, I got checked a little bit today when I saw something and ran with it and it wasn't true. And, I was like, darn, I was pointing the finger, right? I was saying, how can they see that that's, they can't see that that's not real. And we talked about this pointing finger before, that when you point the finger, you've got three pointing right back at you, right? So there's this opportunity. And again, that's just one way that it's coming up. And I had shared it with some friends of mine in frustration. And I said, have you guys been seeing these, and here's a couple screenshots of the things I'm seeing. And like, this is crazy. And, and my friend said, oh, well, I don't know. I don't really spend a lot of time on Facebook. So no, wow, that is weird. I haven't seen that. And I'm like, wow, okay. So she's got a completely different reality than I have, because that's not her experience. That's not where she's putting her energy or her attention. So what does that tell me? What might I glean from that about where I'm putting my energy or my attention, or the idea that, that's interesting. So I might feel really passionately about this thing. I have like a visceral reaction or some strong feelings, and somebody else is kind of like, meh. But that's because it's not their experience. They have not experienced that very thing the same way I have experienced it. And again, this is just a, silly surface example of something like posts on social media. But do we see the depth of meaning that's being represented there? And that when we pause to contemplate and maybe think about it a little deeper, just going a little deeper beneath the surface, that we can see how we are constantly being shown, and in different ways that perhaps will appeal to us. And so what is there for me to see? And when I choose which portal, which door, when I move forward, and this can be a difficult decision. It could be confusing. It could be a no-brainer, the way that a choice might come up for you. And again, let's bring it down, because I'm on my soapbox and I'm talking about these big things. But we're talking about this collective message. How might this come up for you this week? So when you're faced at a choice point, when you're looking at two different portals or doors or ways of, proceeding, how is it presenting itself, and where might you benefit from taking a beat, listening, right? Thinking about things in a way that's engaging all of your senses and your inner truth detector, and proceeding from there with discernment. is another piece that's coming up for me. And again, remember, whatever, and your experience may be very different. So however it's showing up for you, if you would like some more specific guidance, at this time I mentioned that if you would like a personal card pull this week, please feel free to reach out to me. You can quick reply here on Marco Polo on the Sharecast, or send a message to me in any way that works for you, and I will come in and video record for you a personal card pull for this week in the context of these cards. So let me know if you would like one. So let's take a look now at Thursday's energy for how we're growing. All right, Thursday is our card for how are we growing, and not just this week, but again at this precipice where July meets August. How have we grown this past month? How may we expect to grow into August? Very powerful with this card 8, strength for the 8th month. And this is, of course, the Leo card of the tarot in the major arcana. So we tune in here now for how we are growing with the strength card. And so the story says, sometimes the past reflects the future, but sometimes the past corrects itself through healing. And so the future then changes also. Ooh, Chiron all up in there. So feel through the situation so that you may connect more deeply to the situation in question. Fear is an illusion based upon past events. Don't let that fear grab hold of you this time. Yeah, fear is an ego level emotion, energy, right? It's an energy of the ego, and it's designed to keep us safe, right? Fight or flight, and this sense of, survival. And that's what the primal aspects of us, and in traditional tarot, it is typically the lion. And here we see the sea creature that's coming forward to represent our base self, our primal self. And it's ego driven, it's survival driven. And so there can be this sense of, the things that have happened in the past that we perceive as a threat, that the ego has perceived as a threat, is where fear comes from. And it can only fear what it knows because it has reason to fear or be in a position of, inciting that. And so it's inviting us into the future through this new lens of creating greater balance with this higher aspect of self. So it goes on to say that the moves that you make are calculative. You understand the psychology of other merfolk and motives. You use your innate power and intuition to persuade and move forward in the direction that you need things to go. You are in tune with the universe, balanced in body, mind, and spirit. You know when to move ahead and when to pull back. You are courageous, and you recognize that fear is just energy from the dark side. You use your inner strength to move forward and get things done. Be mindful of how you treat others, using unconditional love, compassion, and kindness. So that's when we bring these two into balance. And this is about taming the beast within, recognizing that it has served a purpose. And so we're not looking down or judging the idea that the ego fears something, that there is a fear. And this can be an old fear, and oftentimes, pretty much other than, we're being chased by a saber-toothed tiger, right? Which is not our current reality, but it is in there, right? It's in the template that, it's based on untruths and it's caught up in the energy and emotion of fear, but not grounded in reality. So again, we're being asked to bring in this critical thinking, discernment, and find that balance between the two, using through the lens of unconditional love, compassion, and kindness. So very consistent with the messages that we've been tuning into, and definitely a very powerful symbol of the season that we are in with Leo season. And, like I said, we have Mercury retrograde in Leo. We have the sun in Leo. We have aspects this week. This is the power day that we talked about with the Mercury Cazimi. So again, it's pretty cool how this week is one that's certainly lining up very much through the cards, the stars, and just the energy that we were all already bringing in here and tapping into. So we're going to finish out the week with this final Major Arcana card, and then, of course, our beautiful Whispers of the Ocean Oracle card. So let's take a look now at Friday's energy. All right, Friday, bringing in the caboose, but kicking off the beginning of August. So on one side, we have an ending, and on the other side, a new beginning. It's the Hanged Man, pausing in the in-between with this 12, also 3 energy, right? Earlier, I talked about how 1 and 2 is 3, and 3 is that number of creation, of co-creation, collaboration. And here, I wanted to say that I missed sharing the neutrality prompt for the strength card as we were rolling. So I think it's appropriate that we got paused here between these 2 cards because I do want to share it. It's brief. It says, what would your life look like if you tackled that old fear head on? What would your life look like if you continue to feed the fear? So here in this pause, in this moment of flipping it over to say this old fear that I have of maybe not being seen, of not being understood, of feeling invisible in some way, or, whatever the story is, this sense of disempowerment, of things happening to me, and, all of that. If I continue to perpetuate that fear, to believe that fear, versus if I tackled it head on and eliminated that fear in some way, whether I transmute it, whether I, convert it into a new understanding, a new perspective, we come here to this point where it lies in the ability for us to take that pause, that beat, to be holding up here for a moment, to see things through those alternate lenses. And that is, in so doing, we expand. And we don't have to decide. Something doesn't have to be our truth. Taking a moment to look at someone else's truth, or to consider various truths, and I mean like these are all subjective truths, right? They're not the ultimate universal truth. We're talking about beliefs. We're talking about understandings and perspectives that are derived through life experiences and personality and so many other aspects that the Hanged Man now says, making one wrong move can place you onto a whole different timeline. Each path has a different perspective from the others. Hang quietly, listen, hear the messages, decipher the messages, and create a mental list of all the paths in front of you. Think ahead. Time is needed to see an alternative route. So it's saying to create the best path for yourself in the long run, you're being asked to put choices and decisions on hold. Look at things from a different perspective. Observe all potential options in front of you. New eyes bring a better understanding. Get quiet within and listen to the guidance of your higher self. Your past way of thinking no longer serves you. You cannot continue to think in the same way and expect things to change. A timeout is needed to make life easier and more reflective for you. The answers that you seek are awaiting you in silence. You are in a transitional phase that could alter your life. You may need to give something up in order for you to proceed. That's been a big message that I've been hearing coming up. Is yes, something has to go, something has to be sacrificed or given up in a way that can be an old familiar, right? It can be something very comfortable that we're very accustomed to something, and yet it doesn't have a place where we're going. And so it must change. It must shift. And in order to do that, sometimes we have to flip things over and look at them from various angles. Now, the neutrality prompt says, decisions can be difficult to make. You must see the situation from all angles. Every choice you make will affect every other part of your life. So what is the worst that could happen, and what is the best that could happen? And how would you feel if neither happened, right? So we come back into this place of neutrality. We come back into this place of stasis, this resting place where from one extreme to the other, from the beast to the highest expression of consciousness, we have in the center here, the Hanged One. And in this place of neutrality, where we open ourselves up from a position of surrender to allow for perspective and to look and glean from different angles. We put down the sword, right? We step back and we allow for those perspectives. So again, very consistent and fluid in everything that's been coming up here in each one of these cards. It's really quite interesting to see how it's all been shaping up. And I really look forward as we move into August energy and I bring in, cleanse and clear this altar space and bring in August and set up all of those aspects and the new altar elements and the intuitive channeled words that will come forward and the decks that I'll select, to see where to from here as we go deeper into Leo season and into the new month. So again, we will be kicking off all new empowerment that month. I invite everyone to join me for my birthday month, for Growing the Flow's anniversary. There's going to be a bonus Lionsgate 8/8 message for everyone who comes along for the empowerment pack this month, as well as an entry into the giveaway. So again, like I said, I'll have more about that as I'm just getting back from being away and settling in and allowing for myself to take a beat and get that all together in divine timing. But just wanting to let you know that that's all coming forward and a great time for us to connect. Let's finish things out then on that note with some shared inspiration. Okay, our final card here for our collective messages this week from Whispers of the Ocean, card 20, Shared Inspiration. So it says, throw yourself into a new project. Be willing to let go of time constraints and rules and really be aware of whatever fulfills your heart. So this one is saying, and this may give us a little flavor for the shift into August, because I feel like a lot of the messages we've been building up on here this week have sort of been like, don't do it yet. Don't make a choice yet. Pause, collaborate, listen, all of it. And now this is saying, take an action. So this says, this is an action-oriented time. You may feel incredibly inspired and enthusiastic about pursuing a new idea or project. You may feel all keyed up and ready to go. Use your creative energy and passion to take the first steps to get your project on track. Express your artistic self. What are you wanting more of in your life? You are presently in a time of invention, new dimensions, curiosity, trust, and playfulness. Play is an essential part of the dolphin's way of life. Like the dolphin, be open, breathe, and stay in harmony with your surroundings. Balance your daily life and let go of stress. Now these here are bottlenose dolphins. So it's saying bottlenose dolphins, like all dolphins, enjoy mingling and frolicking. Dolphins will play with small objects, such as a leaf or a bit of seaweed, catching it on their nose or fin. They play with other members of their family or pod, chasing each other in a flurry of spins and spirals. In this way, dolphins show you the importance of being present and in the moment. Mother dolphins will nurse their young for up to 2 years. This emphasizes the importance of surrounding yourself with those whom you cherish. Sometimes being immersed in the energy of family members or a close group of friends can be vital to a creative endeavor. Whether they are like-minded individuals or playing the devil's advocate, trust that there is much to be gained from sharing your ideas with someone who has proven their belief and support of your vision. Wow, so that's feeling very aligned with the astrological weather that we've been tuning into here for this week, and specifically Venus in Cancer. When I mentioned about that energy, bringing in that heart-centered focus, turning our attention towards the softer things in life, it being a good time to, really perhaps redecorate our space or work on feeling more centered and aligned in our home environments. And it talked about that very thing. So I definitely feel the connection to the energies that we've been tuning into here with the astrological weather. And I think that, on one hand, the choice point of the 2 doors on that 2 of air, that crossroads, and this Hanged One saying, hold up, wait a minute, don't rush. take a moment, take a beat, get a perspective, don't get ahead of yourself. And now shared inspiration, talking about it's an action-oriented time. Both things are true, right? And we're going to perceive of those truths differently depending on where we're coming from, what space we're in, and what energy we're coming with. So it's more of the same, which is really cool, even though it can show up and look, sound very different. So I do think for this one, it's all in the joy and the play. And the dolphin is very much representative of the inner child and joy and play. And, you know, we even see the little dolphin here and the talk of family and pods. So I think, again, children and connecting in with our own inner child, and maybe even what we loved to do as a child, as a big hint for wherein lies that shared inspiration from where we're creating from, and opportunities for us to delve into. And, you know, again, I think that some of these things are just for the fun of it. You know, an art project, an idea, you know, redecorating, doing things in our surroundings, or expressing ourselves creatively, are all ways that we can move the needle forward and create some momentum, even while we're in retrograde cycles, and even while we're getting guidance to slow down, to be more discerning, and the like. So I hope that you've been finding these messages to resonate. I know we went deep, we went wide, we went into all the things. So again, if you would like to zoom in and hone in on more specific guidance just for you, and you would like a personal card pull, please feel free to let me know. I send those out here on Marco Polo, private video from me to you. And then of course, keep those eyes peeled and let me know if you are already aware that you would like to jump in for any of the empowerment offerings this month. Like I say, we have a fresh new one, the Chiron retrograde reading, as well as the empowerment pack that has a bonus 8/8 Lion's Gate message for you, in addition to the 3 readings that you receive with me throughout the month. So I look forward to talking more about those as we go. And thank you once again for being here. Keep your eyes peeled. The August Empowerment Sharecast will be kicking off this week. I'll stick the link here and open that up for you all to carry over there and join me for the fun. And I'm looking forward to it. Sending you all much love. We'll talk soon.